Welcome to The Real Review on Damn Good Radio, and I am your host, Warbucks. The movie, or should I say the cinematic episodic experience we are diving into today is The Vince Staples Show, Season 2, Episode 1, released in the year of our Lord 2025. Pull up a chair, pour yourself something aged and expensive, and adjust your frequency because we are about to embark on an auditory odyssey. We are talking about the return of the prodigal son of Long Beach. We are talking about a cultural artifact that transcends the medium of television and enters the realm of high art. The anticipation for this second season has been nothing short of palpable in the streets. The streets have been whispering, the timeline has been buzzing, and finally, the wait is over. Directed by the clinically precise Riley Stearns and written by the man of the hour himself, Vince Staples, this episode represents a quantum leap in production value, storytelling confidence, and satirical bite. If you know Riley Stearns' work, films like The Art of Self-Defense, you know he deals in a very specific, dry, almost uncomfortable humor that pairs with Vince's deadpan delivery like a fine Cabernet with a medium rare ribeye. It is a match made in surrealist heaven. Now, I appreciate every single one of you buckling up your seatbelts and riding with me on this extravaganza of a roller coaster ride that is the Vince Staples Show. If you haven't, go watch every episode of Season 1 of The Real Review as well as the actual episodes of the show, because context is the currency of kings in this conversation. The name of this episode is called Country Maine. And let me tell you, if you are from the South or in love with the South, or you just appreciate the linguistic gymnastics of the region, you know exactly what that word means. It implies a certain ruggedness, a certain authenticity, a specific type of automotive appreciation. Now that we got that out of the way, let's break down this food for thought for your digestive system that is Season 2, Episode 1. The episode starts in a real dope, authentically hip-hop way with Vince putting the needle to a vinyl record. And what plays? The Harmonizing Angels of Cleveland themselves, Bone Thugs and Harmony, the song, The Crossroads. This is not just a needle drop, ladies and gentlemen. This is a classic hip-hop song that will forever be immortalized in music history. It is a staple song, pun absolutely intended, that represents rest in peace to the loved ones we've lost. It evokes the collective mourning of a generation. This song really sets the tone not only for this episode, but I suspect for this whole season. It plays as the background tapestry for this opening scene, providing a melancholic yet rhythmic heartbeat. We see Vince looking contemplative, perhaps a bit weary, walking over to the window. The lighting is natural, soft, contrasting with the heaviness of the song. His mom is there. She's painting a painting in her full painter outfit. And let's pause to appreciate the costume design here. It's eccentric, it's specific. It tells you she takes her art seriously, even if the world is crumbling around her. Vince says to her, "I can't believe Uncle James just died on us like that. It came out of nowhere." The delivery is pure Vince, understated yet heavy. And his mom, she doesn't miss a beat. She replies, "Well, we're black. That's how it usually happens, son." Let that marinate. The dialogue here is razor sharp. It cuts through the sentimentality with a brutal socio-political reality. Vince asks her, what happened to him? She replies, he got sick. He asks, when? She answers, his birthday, cancer. Vince gasps, a moment of genuine shock, and then says, I thought he was a Gemini, Mom. Now stop right there. Rewind the tape in your mind. This is definitely a play on words because Vince Staples is, in fact, a Cancer himself. It's a meta-textual nod to his own astrology, blurring the lines between Vince the character and Vince the creator. His mother, having absolutely none of his astrological confusion, replies, don't make me shoot you in the face, son. Go to the store and get me some more wine. I am running low, and Lord knows I am going to need it for my drive. The dynamic is established immediately. She is the chaotic force of nature. He is the reluctant observer trying to navigate her storm. The next scene cuts to a location that feels like a liminal space. A grocery store I've never heard of, more than likely because I've never been on the West Coast, called Freshies. The name itself sounds too clean, too corporate, almost dystopian in its cheerfulness. Vince pulls up and parks right in front of the store. A homeless gentleman tries to tell him something, gesturing wildly, but when Vince drops some change in his can, it shuts him right up. The transaction of silence. He was probably trying to warn him that he can't park right there because he parked right in the fire lane. It's a subtle nod to how money suppresses the truth even on the smallest scale. Vince enters the store. The lighting is fluorescent, clinical. He grabs a few items, moving with the lethargy of grief. Then he stops. The cereal aisle. He goes to pick up his cereal. K-Pow pops. This cereal and its commercial have been an ongoing theme throughout the show, a symbol of consumerism and childhood innocence corrupted. He stands there staring at it like he is experiencing some type of post-traumatic stress disorder while holding the box. The camera lingers on his face, a 1,000-yard stare in the middle of a breakfast aisle. We hear a car speeding off and gunshots in the background of this scene. The sound design here is masterful. The violence is peripheral, auditory, but it affects Vince centrally. They cut to Vince checking out, and then a hallucination, a specter. Vince now thinks he sees Uncle James walking out of the grocery store. He follows him out the door with a look like he just seen a ghost because he just seen a ghost. That is the intro to the episode. It's haunting, it's surreal, and it tells us that death is going to stalk Vince this entire season. You are listening to Damn Good Radio. Stay locked. We are back. Next scene shows Vince pull up to a rent-a-center, but not just any rental spot. He's with his mom, and it cuts to them waiting in the back of a line of people. We see a black pregnant woman with her own name tag, a detail that suggests she just got off work, walking up to the white guy working behind the counter of a place called Kurtz. Kurtz. This is a play on words from the actual rental car company Hertz, but let's go deeper. Kurtz is the antagonist in Heart of Darkness. Is this rental car facility the Heart of Darkness? Perhaps. Vince created his own brand to probably avoid a lawsuit, which is smart, but the name choice is literary gold. The black pregnant woman asks the clerk, "Where is Sam?" He replies, "Hey, China, can you give me 1 second? I am just helping up." China replies, "Okay, well, let me in the back then." He replies, "Listen, the break room is for employees only, and you know that." She yells, "Manny, if you don't go back there and get Sam, I am filing for child support." Manny yells, "I don't even think Sam showed up today." Then Sam walks in, and we see it is a woman with the clothes and demeanor of a guy, a stud, if you will. Sam says, "Get out of my shop." China replies, "I am not going nowhere until you talk to me." Sam says, "About what?" China says, "About what? About our family?" Sam yells, "Family? What family? I seen the Facebook messages." Now, the whole time we see Vince looking at his mom and reacting to this whole dramatic exchange. It is a masterclass in silent acting. Vince looks confused at what's going on, his eyebrows doing the heavy lifting, while the mom looks entertained by this drama. She is thriving on the chaos. China replies, "I told you it was a mistake. Okay, I don't want to lose you, please." Sam replies, "I promise you this is your child. It only happened once and I made him pull out." Sam replies, "You never made me pull out." Vince's mom cuts them off by saying to them, "This makes no sense at all." Sam tells her, "Stay out of it." And she replies, "No, forget that. This has gone on long enough. Girl, you got titties just like me talking about pull out. Do we not see the problem here?" It is crude, it is hilarious, and it cuts through the tension. China tells her, "Can you not see I am trying to save my family?" She tells her, "Take that stuff outside. I am trying to get my car so I can go." Sam says, "Forget this, Manny. I quit." And then she starts to walk out. Manny says, "No, you can't quit. Your shift just started." China yells, "Samantha, no, what about the baby? I don't have insurance." She then walks over past Vince's mom and says, "I hate you," and bumps into Vince on the way out. Vince asks his mom, "Why would you do that?" His mom replies, "Boy, don't do that. We wouldn't even be here if you didn't let my car get towed." Vince replies, "We wouldn't be here if you didn't have tickets." She replies, That is none of your business, Vince asks. Can't we get it out the impound and go tomorrow? She replies, no, the will reading is in the morning and the family's already on their way. Vince says, so? She replies, so I don't trust them greedy family members alone in my house. If there is one thing we learned from the '92 riots, it is that when tragedy strikes, Vince finishes the sentence with her in unison. Black people start stealing stuff. This moment right here, this is the generational transmission of trauma and cynicism wrapped in a joke. Vince has heard this so many times he can recite it. Vince replies, I feel you. I don't know why he moved out there anyways. It is the middle of nowhere. She replies, shame something you don't know nothing about. Vince says, I think we should call Bree. His mom bumps him and says, what did I say about uttering she who will not be named? Boy, you about to give me an aneurysm. Vince asks, didn't you name her? She replies angrily, no, I didn't. Your grandmother did, and our family historically makes bad choices. He says to her, Grandma says, you named her. She replies back quickly, I did not. Vince pulls his phone out of his pocket and says, I am just gonna call her. His mom hits him and says, do not call that girl. The last thing I need is her holding something else over my head. I am still not over what happened last Juneteenth. The lore of the Staples family is deep, dark, and hilarious. Juneteenth, what happened? We don't know, but the implication is enough. Vince replies, can we go somewhere nicer? She replies, no. We get the family discount because of your uncle. Yeah, he did a commercial for them when he got drafted, I think this was. Yeah, it was his first endorsement. Vince says, Mitch, it's a piece of crap. She replies, you a piece of crap. He replies, I know, the self-deprecation is their love language. She says, son, do me a favor, baby, go over there and get me a drink. And she pulls some money out of her wallet to give to him. She says, I need a chaser. He takes the money and walks over to the snack machine. He puts his money into it, pushing the numbers to get out a Gatorade, but it gets stuck. So he starts banging on the machine, but it doesn't come out. He gets a running start, full athletic commitment, and runs into the machine to finally knock the Gatorade down for him to get. It is physical comedy at its finest, showing Vince's constant struggle against the inanimate objects of the world. His mom finally gets to the counter and Manny is there to greet her with, hey, how you doing tonight, ma'am? His mom replies, oh, baby, I'm doing just fine. How about yourself? The switch up from cursing out lesbians to sweet-talking the clerk. This is the duality of the black mother. Manny says, I can't complain, thanks for asking. Now, do you have a reservation for tonight? His mom replies, yes, I do. It's under the name Anita Brown. Manny replies, okay, let me just look you up right here. Right there you are. I see you're a Kurtz member. Thank you so much for your business. And it looks like we got you signed up for one of our luxury fleets. Now that doesn't include the new Prius. However, we'd be happy to include it just because you're one of our valued customers. She replies, no, you don't have to worry about that. I reserved a Durango SRT Hellcat. He replies, oh ma'am, I'm sorry. I think there's been a mix-up. We don't have that available. We recently transitioned our whole fleet into hybrids and zero-emission vehicles only. As he is saying all of this, Vince is walking over to them at the counter. His mom says, do I look like Captain Planet to you? Vince says, what's going on? His mom replies, they got us messed up. That's what's going on. This meek-faced fool gave away all the cars. Manny replies, oh, we didn't give away. No, we still have cars. They're just EVs. His mom replies, EV is not a car, it's some BS. A government psyop implemented by the far right and that white South African fool with the hairpiece. She is talking, of course, about Elon Musk. The script is fearless. Manny replies, listen, ma'am, and then his mom cuts him off. Vincent, take care of this stuff right now. There's an awkward silence for a moment. The tension is thick. Then Vince says, you want to have a private conversation? He pulls Manny to the side away from his mom. Vince says quickly, and Manny walks faster to him into the next room. Vince says to him, so first I want to say none of this is your fault. Manny says, thank you. Vince says, you're just doing your job and things happen right. Manny says, I'm trying my best. Vince says, you're trying your best. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, my mother is crazy and she's been crazy for a long, long time. Plus, my uncle just died. Manny says, I'm sorry. Vince continues, and it kind of magnified the crazy, so now she's nuclear. She's a nuclear weapon. Manny replies, like a gun? Vince says, and you're the target. Manny replies, I'm the target. Vince says, if we don't get that car soon, I don't know what she'll do. Manny walks back over to the counter and starts typing, and then says to Vince's mom, okay, looks like we have one gas vehicle left in our fleet. She replies, oh, thank you, Jesus. Manny says, it's a Mini Cooper. Vince's mom is about to curse. You can see the expletive forming on her lips, but Vince cuts her off and says, do your breathing okay? She breathes in and out and then says to Manny, are you playing with me? Because it sounds like you're playing with me. Vince answers for Manny, nah, Mom, he's not playing with you. I'm sure it's a great car. You know Mr. Bean had a Mini and Paddington Bear. Manny, why don't you and my mom go get a snack from the vending machine that almost killed me, and I'll go outside and check on the car. Manny replies, yes, one of my co-workers will be outside. He'll be happy to assist you. Just let them know what you're looking for. Vince replies, sounds great, man. Thank you. Vince turns around to leave. Manny stops him and says, thank you for saving my life. And Vince replies with all the gravitas of an action hero, it's not over yet. This next part of the show is titled Being John Malkovich. Vince walks over to a dark corner of the parking lot where he sees a guy sitting on top of a car, and he says to him, hey, do you work here? I'm looking for a Mini Cooper. The guy jumps off the car with a cigarette in his hand and walks over to Vince and smiles and says, right this way. Vince follows him as he opens up a garage, and they walk in to see a Mini Cooper sitting under a blue light. Visually, this thing just looks way different. The glow is very appealing, bathing the scene in a cool, mysterious azure hue. It's cinematic candy. Vince asks the man, is this it? The man takes a hit of his cigarette and blows smoke, the smoke curling in the blue light like a spirit. Vince asks, what's the model? The man replies, Country Maine. Vince asks, V6? The guy replies, 4. Vince asks, torque? The guy replies, 295. Power? Vince asks, what's this color? The guy replies, abalone. Abalone, not white, not pearl, abalone. They cut to Vince in the driver's seat and the guy in the passenger seat of the Mini Cooper. It's intimate. It's a confessional booth on wheels. The guy asks Vince, you're the man, right? Vince replies, aren't we all? Yeah, that's me. He asks him, you listen to Slum Baby? Vince replies, yeah, he cool, a lot of creativity. The guy says excitedly, yeah, man, you know his new single going up right now. Vince replies, yeah, man, he just needs a better team. You know what I mean? Success in the music business, bro, it's indicative of the people around artists, either that or racial makeup. You know what I'm talking about. The guy replies, man, you should know more than anybody how tricky the music stuff is. It is predatory by nature, especially for a young black man. I mean, you got one white guy selling your publishing, one white guy selling your masters, then you got a white guy down at BMI and ASCAP backdooring whatever royalties you got coming in after that. But if you're lucky, you'll get a tour deal with Live Nation or AEG and be paying it off for the rest of your life. Nah, not Slum Baby. He a real one, kind of prefers to stay underground like Pimp and Bun, 8 Ball, and MJG. Then the guy asks him, how's that lumbar support? Then Vince lets the seat all the way back. Then he sits back up. He says to the guy, it's cool. Then he says, appreciate you, bro, and then gets out of the car. This next scene is titled, We're Almost There. Vince's mom is throwing back shots with Manny at the counter. She tells Manny, and you'll never guess who I seen in the bathroom. She says, okay, you'll never guess. Paula Abdul. He says, oh, I know you lying. And she replies, baby, if I'm lying, I'm flying. Vince walks up to the counter and says, I hate to kill the party, but we're leaving. Car is perfect, by the way. Vince's mom says, thank you, Jesus. Now we can get up out of here. Here you go. She hands Manny her driver's license for the rental. Manny replies, I'm sorry I hate to have to do this, but I can't accept that from you. She replies, why not? He says, because we've been drinking. We just had shots. She replies, it's okay, because I am feeling it and you're just doing your job. I understand. Vincent, give my friend Manny here your ID. Vince starts reaching around his pockets to find his ID, but he comes up with nothing. The panic sets in. Vince says, I lost my wallet. His mom says, I'm going to need you to repeat that because it sounds like you just said you lost your wallet. Vince says, it's got to be something we can do here, right? Manny says, I can't hand over a vehicle without identity confirmation. Vince says, oh, I'm Vince Staples. Vince starts naming his songs and then says, Vince Staples from the Vince Staples Show Netflix original miniseries. What a way to break down the fourth wall. He is citing the show we are currently watching as proof of his identity. Manny replies, I haven't seen it. Vince says, he don't watch Netflix. You listen to music? I got a Billie Eilish, a Jhené Aiko. You heard the Black Panther soundtrack? I'm on the Black Panther soundtrack. She yells out, just Google him, baby. My son is famous. Then she hugs Vince and says, my son is a star. Manny Googles Vince Staples. He looks at a pic of him online and then says, this doesn't really look like you. Vince replies, don't really worry about that. I'm going through something right now. Vince looks a little different in this scene because of his facial hair is kind of grown out and it's not lined up. Manny tells them, this is above me. There's nothing he can do. The guy from the garage, the smoker, walks up to the counter and gives Vince a dirty look. Vince tells Manny, that's my boy Milton. We grew up as kids together. Vince yells out to Milton, what's up, bro? You good? Do me a favor. Manny tripping right now. If you just tell him who I am so I can get these keys and get out of here. Milton says to Vince, you ain't nothing. Vince replies, what? Milton says, it's always fools like you coming around, good hardworking people trying to turn your nose up. Vince starts to talk, but Milton cuts him off. Oh, so now you ain't got nothing to say? You had a whole lot of stuff to say about my artist when we was in the mini. Vince replies, your artist? Milton says, I'm a Millionaire Productions, fool. The audaciousness for you to ask me for help and you just took a crap on everything we built. Fool, we got it out the mud and we didn't have a Def Jam. Forget Def Jam, Diggy Simmons, all of them fools. Vince replies while walking up to him, it ain't even gotta be like that. Milton cuts him off and gets in his fighter stance, a serious martial arts stance, and says, who are you walking up on like that? I'm a black belt. Vince's mom cuts the whole thing off and pinches Vince by the ear, pulling him into the other room into a seat. She sits right next to him. Vince is frustrated and says, why are you embarrassing me in front of these people? It ain't even my fault. She replies, it ain't ever your fault if I leave it up to you. Vince asks, what am I supposed to do then? She replies, Michael Jackson, Motown 25, Civic Auditorium in Pasadena, March 25th, 1983. It was a Friday. Your aunt and I went. You know, we had smoked a couple butt nakeds and had some ice cream. You know, we just decided to make a whole day out of it, but when we got there, we learned a valuable lesson. Vince asks, what lesson did you learn? She replies, I can't tell you the lesson without the context, so don't cut me, okay? We had a couple of Sherm sticks, we was activated, and Jackson 5 hit the stage, everybody except for that backstabbing Jermaine. That performance was beautiful. I mean, it was lit, but the performance wasn't important. Michael was important because that night he took initiative, and that's what you need to do. Vince says, how mom? She replies, kick them fools off your stage and take control of your life unless you want to be Randy. Vince replies, no, I'll never be Randy. She replies, then get in there and get us this car so we can get up out of here. Man up, you got this. Vince walks out. The pep talk worked. Next scene, Milton is on the phone walking and Vince is behind him staring at him. When Milton sees Vince, he stops talking and stares at him. Then he says on the phone, I'ma call you back, and hangs up. Milton says to Vince, you still need your butt whooped? And Vince replies, calm down. You think I don't know what you're going through right now, but frankly, I don't got time for this stuff. So you can sit here in Kurt's rental car for the rest of the night or for the rest of your life maybe, or you can hand me the keys in that box and I can get out of here. And when I come back, I'll sit with you and Slum Baby and show you how this music stuff really works. The choice is yours. Milton replies, well, why wait? Follow me. Vince follows him, and Milton says to him, stepping into my office. Milton opens the door and walks through it. Vince stops before he goes through the door and says, this better not be a Money Mike situation, a classic Friday after next reference. When Vince and Milton get through to the other side, it's a whole studio set up in one room. Milton flips a switch and Vince says, I'm not gonna lie, man, this is a little weird, but it's impressive. Milton says, Slum Army got over a dozen artists, over 5,000 producers. We got a state-of-art studio in almost every Kurt's location. Vince asks, why? Milton replies, because the grind don't stop. Milton says something in the mic and then starts making a beat. Milton says to him after making the beat, "That's a platinum plaque." Vince says, "You think so?" Milton replies, "I know so, fool." Vince says, "My bad. You right. Now what now?" Milton says, "Getting in the booth, let's go." Vince is a little confused because the booth looks like a bathroom stall, but he goes in. He puts his headphones on and stands in front of the mic. Milton asks him, "Are you ready?" Vince replies, "Yeah, man, come on." We hear a beat playing, but it sounds muffled a little because it's through the headphones. Vince stops and says, "Hey, man, can I get a little inspiration for the track? It's not speaking to me." Milton says to him, "Just real stuff. Death, poverty, destruction, and dismay. That feeling you get when you get in the streets and take a loss." Vince replies, "It is crazy you said that, bro. I just lost my uncle. That stuff really been weighing heavy on me. He was really the anchor at a family." Milton replies, "Forget your uncle, fool. I don't want to hear that stuff." Vince stops for a moment. He looks like he's about to cry. And then he remembers what his mother just told him about taking initiative. They cut back to the office where his mom and Manny are still taking shots, and you can hear a fight going on in the other room. Then Vince gets knocked through the door onto the floor. Vince gets off the floor, and him and Milton are now fighting in the office. Milton is whooping Vince's behind. Milton throws Vince up against the wall. His mom starts yelling words of encouragement for Vince to fight back. Vince gets back up, but he's off balance. He catches his balance and does a karate stance. Vince fights back and then knocks Milton back onto a random Asian guy. The Asian guy gets up like he's drunk and then kicks Milton into the vending machine and knocking him out cold. Manny walks over, reacting negatively to what just happened. Vince's mom hits Manny over the head with something. Vince and his mom run out of the Kurtz. They cut to Milton, Slum Baby, and Manny in the studio listening to the beat he made for Vince earlier in the episode. Milton asks Manny, "Do you like the beat?" And Manny replies, "It's okay, it needs some work." Slum Baby looks at Manny with an attitude, then takes out his gun, aims it at Manny. They cut to outside of the building and we hear a gunshot go off. The end. Now let's get into the philosophical core of this masterpiece. The very first thing I noticed about this second season is visually it looks amazing. It definitely looks like Vince got a bigger budget than he did last season, which is dope. The scene where he goes in the garage with the guy to see the Mini Cooper that he plans on renting with his mom visually just looks dope. The blue light shining over the car in that dark scene is very visually appealing. It creates a sense of techno-noir, a feeling that we are in a heightened reality where even a rental car garage holds secrets of the universe. This episode is also very funny. The scene where the two lesbians and Vince's mom get into it in the Kurtz is hilarious. But beyond the humor, it speaks to the intersectionality of struggle. Everyone in that line, Manny, China, Sam, Vince, his mom, they are all fighting their own battles in a system that makes them wait in line for hours. It's also unpredictable. I thought at the end, this was Vince's moment to rap in the booth to get his mom's car rental, and he was about to body a verse. That's the Hollywood trope, right? The hero uses his talent to save the day. Instead, he gets into a fight with Milton, which forces them to run out in the end. This show has a habit of taking your everyday life situations and heightens them for our entertainment purposes only. It subverts expectations at every turn. The conversation in the Mini Cooper was a super important conversation to have about the music industry and how foul it is to young black men on the come up. When Milton talks about the white guy at BMI backdooring royalties, he is speaking a truth that is rarely uttered on television. It is a critique of the commodification of black art, delivered in a scene that is lit like a science fiction movie. This juxtaposition, the harsh reality of the industry versus the dreamlike visuals, is the core message. Reality is a trap, but style is the escape. Why does this message matter today? Because we live in an era of content over art. Vince is telling us that to survive, you have to take initiative. Like Michael Jackson at Motown 25, you can't be Randy. You have to be the one who moonwalks, even if you're just trying to rent a Mini Cooper. damn good radio. We peel back the layers. And now for the obsessive deep dive, the details you might have missed if you were blinking. First, let's talk about the costume design in the Freshies scene. Did you notice the color of the homeless man's can? It was a rusted red, clashing with the sterile white of the store, a visual representation of the blood and life outside versus the lifeless commerce inside. Second, the kapow, Pops. This isn't just a funny name. In season 1, this cereal appeared in the background of the bank robbery. It represents the explosive, sugary, artificial nature of the American dream that Vince is constantly being fed but can never quite digest. Third, the Kurt's name tag. We mentioned Heart of Darkness, but notice the font. It was very similar to the font used in Apocalypse Now. This suggests that for Vince, a simple errand is a journey up the river into madness. Fourth, the Money Mike reference. For the uninitiated, Money Mike is a pimp character played by Cat Williams. By referencing him, Vince is acknowledging the blurred lines between the pimp game and the rap game, a theme echoed in Milton's speech about the industry. Fifth, the Asian man in the office fight. He wasn't just a random extra. His drunken style of fighting is a nod to The Legend of Drunken Master, a Jackie Chan classic. It's an Easter egg for martial arts fans, reinforcing the idea that in Vince's world, everyone is a character from a different genre movie trying to coexist. It is time for the final verdict. This episode is a masterclass in tone management. It balances grief, social commentary, and pure absurdity with the grace of a tightrope walker. The visuals are crisp, the budget is on the screen, and the writing is sharper than a fresh shape-up. There are no misses here. Every line of dialogue serves a purpose. Every camera angle tells a story. It is Atlanta meets Curb, Your Enthusiasm meets Twin Peaks. For that reason, I am awarding The Vince Staples Show, Season 2, Episode 1, a perfect 5 out of 5 popcorn buckets. It stands tall against giants of the genre. It has the surrealism of Atlanta, but with a more personal Long Beach groundedness. It has the cynicism of Succession, but from a perspective we rarely get to see. This has been The Real Review on Damn Good Radio. I'm your host, Warbucks. Remember, life is a rental, and we're all just trying to avoid the extra fees. Take the initiative. Don't be Randy. Be Michael. Until next time, keep your eyes on the screen and your ear to the streets. We out.